Welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and today's show is episode 78, recorded on May 28th, 2014. If you want to see all of my shows, go to my vid blog, as I call it, walkinpark.com. Walk in the Park, walkinpark.com. Okay, so today we're going to have some fun. We're going to, well, Bears on the Move is the title of today's show, and we're going to talk a lot about bears in the Ithaca area and way beyond, around the world as well. So we'll start right off with this picture from just a few years ago. I think it was about 3 years ago. Across the street from me, I live up near Upper Buttermilk Falls State Park, and this was my neighbor took this picture, took it off her back deck, and there was this bear ripping away at the bird feeders that you can see, and as they are wont to do. They love bird seed. This is a wandering bear. The bear then it came across the street. We didn't see it. I didn't see it at my house, but it came across the street and tore my garbage cans all apart, and did the same with my neighbor who took this picture. So this happens every few years, and in fact, last year I was away for about half an hour, and the other next door neighbors next to me said, "Hey, there's a big bear that wandered up your driveway and went down in the woods." And I was kind of sorry I didn't see it, because it's kind of fun to see bears, but it's also a little scary. And I posted a thing on Facebook about it and said, "Hey, I had a bear in the neighborhood." And then a friend wrote back and said, "You got a bear, that's a problem." But these are mainly wandering bears. They're not bears that are resident or denning in the neighborhood, say. There are not far away. There probably are some, perhaps on Connecticut Hill or something. But if you go right over to the state park at the Bear Trail, people see this sign and they get worried. Said, "Oh my gosh, am I going to go back there and see a bear?" Well, probably not. I used to work in the state parks, and I've lived near this park for years, and been in the area for, oh my gosh, 45 years or so. And I am personally have never actually seen a bear. So I think it was a few years ago, a number of years ago, a bear was seen on this path, and so they call it the Bear Trail, not because there's a lot of bears, but somebody once saw a bear. Well, that's the thing. Most of the bears around Ithaca are not bears that are going to stay around. They're young bears that have been driven out of their territory by their moms, probably male bears, because they usually wander farther than the young female bears, forced to find a new territory. And because we are fairly heavily populated with farms and roads and houses and so forth, with some corridors that can serve for wildlife, they tend to keep moving. And they even move north. They go up into they've been seen at Teganic Falls and up in Seneca County and other counties and so forth. So bears. Let's see what we got here. I've got some information about bears. Black bears we're talking about here. The American black bear, Ursus americanus, is a medium-sized bear native to North America. It is the continent's smallest and most widely distributed bear species. Black bears are omnivores, with their diets varying greatly depending on the season and location. They typically live in largely forested areas, but do leave forests in search of food, hence my neighbor's bird feeder. Sometimes they become attracted to human communities because of the immediate availability of food. The American black bear is the world's most common bear species. While they live in North America, American black bears are not closely related to brown bears or grizzly bears and polar bears. Genetic studies reveal that they split from a common ancestor about 5 million years ago. Both American and Asian black bears are considered sister taxa and are more closely related to each other than to other species of bears. Reportedly, the sun bear is also a relatively recent split from this lineage. So this is an Asian black bear in a zoo somewhere, and we'll take a look at its territory. Now look what this is, looking at Southeast Asia, Eastern China, Korea, Japan, and showing different levels of, I guess, in population in those areas with the color codes. I'm not exactly sure what those mean, but in any case, that is the normal or the existing range of the Asian black bear. And then this is the sun bear, which it mentioned, and it's here's its range. Okay, so it looks like Southeast Asia, Borneo, Indonesia, that sort of thing. So they're all related, but the Asian black bear is the most closely related bear species that's alive today to our American black bear. So, and then sometimes it appears you see a white spot. I don't see it, but sometimes people see a white patch like this on the American black bear's chest. So that's kind of interesting. So let's see what else we got here. Well, we're going to talk about some other bears in the Americas. We'll go to ones that you probably don't know about, which is the spectacled bear. And we won't find that around here, but you will find it in South America. This is see what I've got any notes on the spectacled bear. Yeah, okay, the spectacled bear, also known as the Andean bear or Andean short-faced bear. And there's a bunch of local names like Jucamari and Ucamari and Ukuku, the various native peoples' languages, is the last remaining short-faced bear subfamily Tremarctini, and the closest living relative to the Florida spectacled bear, which is extinct, and the giant short-faced bears of the Middle Pleistocene to Late Pleistocene. Spectacled bears are the only surviving species of bear native to South America, blah, blah, blah. So this is the range. They live down in the Andes, and not that many of them, I guess. But this is the one they were talking about. Now, this is a reconstruction of what the giant short-faced bear must have looked like. Now, the short-faced bear, like it said, it's, I think, let me get the information on that here. Yeah, this is Arctodus simus, or giant short-faced bear, first appeared during the Middle Pleistocene in North America about 800,000 years ago, ranging from Alaska to Mississippi, and it became extinct about 11,600 years ago. Its fossils were first found in the Potter Creek Cave, Shasta County, California. It might have been the largest carnivorous land mammal that ever lived in North America. It stood 8 to 10 feet tall on hind legs, with a large specimen would have been 11 to 12 feet. Let's see, with a 14-foot vertical arm reach and 5 to 6 feet high at the shoulder when walking on all fours. It was tall enough to look a man in the eye. Pretty amazing. So anyway, that's it's short-faced bears that could have been over 12 feet tall. So they're no longer with us, fortunately for our safety, because short-faced bears probably would eat a black bear for lunch. And pretty fierce, it appears that they were. Okay, so those are some of the bears that we don't know and won't know, probably, unless you go to the zoo or the museum or something. But let's get back to our black bear. Here's a drawing of our American black bear. It is listed by the IUCN as International Union of Conservation, something or other, as least concern due to the species' widespread distribution and a large global population estimated to be twice that of all other bear species combined. Along with the brown bear, is one of the only 2 of the 8 modern bear species not considered globally threatened with extinction. American black bears often mark trees with using their teeth and claws as a form of communication with other bears, a behavior common to many species of bears. Okay, so let's look at the historic range of the American black bear. Look at that, all the way from Alaska down to Mexico, from the west coast more or less to the east coast, from Labrador to Florida. So it was really widespread bear. Then come along 300-400 years ago, people, European Americans came and wiped out the habitat and the populations of much of the black bear's range. And you can see that in the north, well, we'll get to New York in a while, but you can see in the north that Canada has lots of them, and the Rocky Mountains and the west coast, and some in Mexico, some in the Ozarks, it looks like, and a bunch that go down through the Appalachians, although sometimes they are have problems with poaching and what have you. So that's the current range of the black bear, American black bear. So let's take a look. We'll take a look down in Shenandoah National Park, which was actually, if you look at in the east there, that green that's going down towards the east coast, not quite to it. That's going down the Appalachian chain, and the northern part of that in Virginia is Shenandoah National Park, where they're becoming common. I actually have seen a lot of bears in Shenandoah because I used to live down there and visited family down there quite a lot. And the bears, you go up in the park, and that's where I've probably seen most bears. And I just talked to somebody recently that was in Shenandoah, and they said you see them all over the place. So here's a little video that somebody was camping in the park made of their encounter along the probably the Skyline Drive with these bears. So let's take a look at that.
So what if they're like up next to the campground?
We're in a hotel.
Yeah, but I mean when we
look at her
want to go to the wedding, they're just like walking around. We have to sit in the car. Practice.
I want to see their hind legs doing the roar. Oh, this kids really want to climb.
Time to follow Mom off into the woods. Oh, I hope my mic picked that up.
There's cars.
They'll want to stop too.
Oh, there's 3! Now look at another one.
Oh man, where did the third one come from?
The top ranch. 3 bears.
Awesome.
As we were like, oh, it'll go cool.
Well, you better look up there. There might be another one.
Bears aren't like raptors, are they? Is there one behind us?
Clever girl.
Okay, that's pretty sweet, huh? Family of bears, mama and the cubs. Okay, well, one we're not likely to see around New York unless we go to the zoo is, yes, that's right, the grizzly bear. Ursus arctos is any North American subspecies of the brown bear, including the mainland grizzly, Ursus arctos horribilis, the Kodiak bear, Ursus arctos middendorfi, the peninsular grizzly, Ursus arctos gyas, and the recently extinct California grizzly. It's on their state flag, but there's no grizzlies left in California. And the Mexican grizzly bear. Specialists sometimes call the grizzly the North American brown bear because the grizzly and the brown bear are one species on 2 continents. In fact, let's take a look at this picture here. This compares on the left an American black bear and on the right a brown bear. So interestingly though, this is in the Natural History Museum of Genoa, Italy. And you look at that map of Italy just above the brown bear on the right. And look, it's got some red dots on it, and that's actually where there are brown bears. And grizzlies are a subspecies of brown bear. And in fact, the brown bear, including the grizzly, has widespread range in the northern hemisphere from northwestern North America through Alaska to across much of Asia and even into parts of Europe and the Middle East. So you think we're the only ones with the grizzly bear, where they're just a kind of brown bear. How do you tell them apart? Well, one of the ways is the brown bear has a hump on its back, whereas the black bear doesn't. The brown bear tends to be bigger, or the grizzly, and their faces look different and some other features, but that's probably the most distinctive thing. So well, let's take a look at, let's see, what else we got here. We'll talk a little bit more about the black bear as a species. Black bear weight tends to vary according to age, sex, health, and season. Seasonal variation in weight is very pronounced. In autumn, their pre-den weight tends to be 30% higher than in spring when black bears emerge from their dens. By the way, black bears aren't true hibernators. They sleep through the winter. They're similar to hibernation, but they're not true hibernators. Black bears on the East Coast tend to be heavier on average than those on the West Coast, well, although with the exception of in the Northwest, where they tend to be heavier than the bears from the Southeast. Adult males weigh between 126 and 551 pounds, and while females weigh about a third less, 90 to 375 pounds. Okay, so let's look at this guy here. Huh. What kind of bear is that? That's a black bear. It's a cinnamon-colored black bear in Yellowstone National Park. Turns out there's a lot of color variation in bears in the same species. Now, if you go state by state, for a number of states here, 100% of the black bears in Michigan are black. In Minnesota, 94% are black, 6% brown. New England, New York, and Tennessee, they're all black. Washington coastal, 99% black, 1% brown or blonde. Washington inland, only 21% black, 79% brown or blonde. And Yosemite National Park, 9% black, 91% brown or blonde. I hope to go out there soon in Yosemite, so I'll check that out. But I was out there years ago. The black bear I saw was black. So let's take a look at another one here. Oh, what's this thing? This is, what's that? It must be a polar bear, right? Wrong. This is the Kermode or spirit bear of the coast of British Columbia. The Kermode bear, Ursus americanus kermodii, also known as a spirit bear, particularly in British Columbia, is a subspecies of the North American black bear, living in the central and north coast regions of British Columbia, Canada. Noted for about 1/10 of their population having white or cream-colored coats. This color morph is due to recessive genes common in the population. They are not albinos. And they are not any more related to polar bears or the blonde brown bears of Alaska's ABC Islands than other members of their black bear species. Sometimes a black mother can have a white cub. So there's a lot of variation. So here's a polar bear. Polar bear was previously considered to be its own genus. However, evidence of hybrids between polar bears and brown bears and of the recently evolutionary divergence of these two species does not support the establishment of this separate genus. Okay, so in fact, they're starting to be included in the brown bear group with the grizzly bears and so forth, the brown bears of Asia and the brown bears of Europe and so forth. Here's their range. Oh my gosh, what are you looking at there? Well, that's a polar view of the world map, and in the very center of it is the Arctic Ocean, and on the left is North America, going from northern Canada and Greenland, and farther left it gets down to Mexico, and so this is a different kind of projection than they're used to. And then on the right is Asia, and then Europe is down at the bottom, and Africa are down at the bottom. So that's a weird thing. But anyway, you can see the pole, the polar bear lives around the pole, and it spends most of its time in the water, actually, fishing for seals off of ice flows. So hence its name, Ursus maritimus, and yeah, Ursus maritimus because of that. You probably have heard that because of global warming, the sea ice in the Arctic is melting much more quickly, sooner, and it doesn't last as long, doesn't get as thick. And polar bears depend upon ice flows to be able to hunt and be able to move around in their range, and so they get exhausted and starving and what have you, and it's a terrible situation. Okay, so let's go back to our bear here, our black bear. What was I going to say about that? Let's see. Okay, well, black bears, let's look at them in New York State. Here's the range of black bears. Now you see the really dark brown area. This is up in the north particularly, and then down the south in the Catskills and the southern tier. It says primary range. That means there are reproducing denning permanent populations of bear there. And then just north of the southern range of bears is that secondary range, and that's where bears are seen fairly often. You know, there's common reports of them, but not many bears you could say would be resident bears. And then the light area, that's bears are seen then, with the possible exception of Long Island, on occasion, but those are just wandering bears, probably males, and don't know what happens to them. So bears have been expanding their range in New York State. They've been moving west from the Catskills and east from the Allegheny region and up from Pennsylvania. So you can see, maybe you can look at the dates there, but there's been an expansion of bear hunting areas in New York. And in fact, just last week came out a bear management plan, which is taking public comments from DEC on their website, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and they are going to be increasing the areas where hunting is permitted so they can manage bear populations according to a whole bunch of criteria, including human-bear conflicts, whether there's enough habitat for them, and so forth. So you may want to check that out. But they're moving into our area much more commonly. So bears have been seen around Ithaca for many, many years, but probably going to have more of them. And eventually, I was talking to Courtney Lemire last week, who is the game biologist at Region 7 DEC Cortland office. And she said that we better get used to bears being around here more, and eventually we're going to have resident bears right around Ithaca, because the old farmlands that have been abandoned are growing up into forest, and they're connecting up. They're afforestation, you might call it, and the bears are finding more range and moving closer to us. So, and bears, black bears are omnivorous. That is, they eat lots of different things. In the summertime, they'll eat berries, but in the spring, they'll eat grasses, and they'll eat birds' eggs, whatever they can find that will feed them a variety of diets. They'll eat insects, they'll eat amphibians, they'll eat, actually when they come out of their winter sleep, they often find winter-killed deer, and they'll feed on carrion right away. So they really eat a lot, including your bird feeder, my friend across the street. And he's taking a look at Nola there, took the picture, and said, "Oh, wait a minute, now you're interrupting my lunch." But so as we get more sightings of bears, these bears are going to get, we don't want to train them to come to bird feeders. They really like bird feeders, and they really like that kind of food. And also garbage and compost heaps, that kind of thing. We're going to have to take down our bird feeders in the spring when the birds don't really need them anymore and the bears are out. So that's a consideration. And campers are going to have to be more careful if you don't store your food properly. This is a DEC picture of a bear has ripped into a vehicle that didn't store food properly in it. I'm not exactly sure what they did wrong, but you want to store your food properly in your vehicle and in your campground. Do not leave it out. Don't have it in the tent with you. You learned that in the Scouts and so forth. Or the bear may come get them. And we don't want to train bears to eat human food. There's plenty of natural food out there, and we don't want bears learning that they can get an easy lunch on our carelessness. So let's see, we're going to look at another video here of, this is in Cambridge, New York, which is over near the Vermont border. But let's take a look at this here. Well, actually, no. Let's see. We're going to look at this other bear. Let's see. All right. So that was an Ithaca bear. That may have been the same bear that we were looking at there. I got a little confused out of sequence here. So here's the bear that was across the street from me near Upper Buttermilk, and this was posted about August 22nd. Well, the bear you just saw in the video was over in Burns Road area, across the 6 Mile Creek in Ithaca. There's a 6 Mile Creek Valley, and in the way up in the upper right, beyond there, Burns Road crosses. And so that's a corridor, a wildlife corridor, and this bear was seen only 6 days later. So it may have been the same bear, because when you get a lot of bear sightings in town, often they are the same bear that's just been moving through. And then a couple of 3 days after that, Mr. Hilker's son saw a bear right down in the lower left picture, down near the city water plant, actually, which is just a little left of center in this picture, and in the 6 Mile Creek area. So that same bear was well, it could have been the same bear, but a bear was seen within the city limits. So they move around, and we're going to see more and more of them. So let's take another look at a bear feeder interaction here. Okay, that was over in eastern New York near Glens Falls, not far from the Vermont border. But bears tend to be very hard on bird feeders and the associated structures, and will tend to wreck them. So if you're starting to have bear visits with any frequency at all, probably a good idea to stop feeding birds after the winter. Okay, we're just going to go to one more video. I won't have time to look at the whole thing here, but we'll look at some of it. We're going to go out west to Canada, the Canadian Rockies, and look at some advice as a grizzly bear in the Canadian Rockies. Look at some advice about if you're hiking along the trail and you might encounter a bear, what you might do. Right.
Anytime you're in bear country, you should have bear spray with you. So whether you're trail running, biking, hiking, whether it is just a short hour-long hike or multi-day backpacking hike, you should always have it readily available. Don't have it in your backpack. Have it on your belt or on the loop of your backpack. If you're mountain biking, you could put it in your water bottle holder. Two really important things to look at is the expiry date. And if they are expired or close to expiring, do not use them. Make sure that it does say bear repellent or deterrent. It doesn't repel the bear from spraying it on our clothing, our tent. It will attract the bear. You only use it if a bear is approaching you and at close distance. So make sure also that the wind is in the right direction. If you have a strong wind blowing in your eyes, chances are the bear spray will work on you. If in the event that the bear is getting very close, you want to make sure your bear spray is out. The effective range is 5 meters. So let it know of your presence. Hey bear, hey bear. Pull off this safety clip right here. Face against the wind, here comes the bear, and we lightly press on the release mechanism and give short little bursts. 2 seconds directly in the face of the bear. It's very effective.
Okay, we haven't got to that point yet, but if you're hiking in the Canadian Rockies and there's grizzly bears about in particular, you're advised to bring some protection like that. So I want to thank you all for joining me. You can see this online as well, walkinpark.com, along with the rest of my episodes. Thank you for joining me.